Rice, meat, good God, let's eat! So Ballaz in the Middle, back in his house, back in those stars. You got yourself Hutchie Hutch.
Rob Ledman, the hitting machine.
And today we have a baller, but we have a baller that plays soccer, not American football. This guy has played over 180 professional games. We have Karleigh Osborne. How you doing, my man?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you? I'm very well.
Yeah, we're all good, man. We're all good,
man.
too, man.
Good energy this morning. I like it.
That's how we roll.
Yeah.
That is exactly how we roll. So, what I'd like to ask you, Karleigh, is about how, so soccer, right? We'll class it as soccer.
Yeah.
We usually say
It's a
football.
struggle for me. I'm a
Because we talk about football, right?
Yeah,
We talk about
of
regular
course,
football.
of course.
So with soccer, it's a national sport, right?
Yeah.
Just like cricket, just like rugby. When I was young, I started off with soccer myself, etc. But what I want to know is how did you get to that point where you knew that you was going to be a professional football player? Who was there? Was there someone that actually spotted your talent and then took you on? How did that look like?
Yeah, so but you know what? My kind of journey into football was... I knew I wanted to be a footballer, but I never, at a young age, if I'm brutally honest, I wasn't that great. I genuinely wasn't. When I first started playing at sort of 7, 8 or whatever it would have been, I was in goal for the first year, and then I come out on pitch and was a defender. No, I tried to be an attacker. Scoring goals wasn't my forte, so I got put back in goal. And then I kind of I just enjoyed playing, and I didn't really at that point, I didn't really know what I wanted to do in terms of football. But I got into my teenage years, and I got into high school, and I had quite a big growth spurt. And at the time, my stepdad had a men's team, so I used to train a lot with men and stuff when I was young, and they didn't take it easy on me. Like, they were dashing me same way, and they didn't business. But some of those things are probably what helped me stand out, because physically I was ahead of people my age, as well as having my growth spurt. And then kind of, as I said, I got to high school and I started to really sort of work on my sort of technical ability and my craft. And then at 13 years old, I was playing for my school team, and I just started to get spotted by a few different scouts. So I got scouted by Arsenal, Chelsea, Fulham, Reading, and QPR, and kind of went on this journey from about 13, 14 up to 15, just turning 16 before I signed my scholarship at Brentford. But I think once I started to get noticed, I probably started to believe myself and realise that actually, one, this is what I want to do because I love it, and two, maybe I do have some talent to be able to push through with it.
Yeah.
And I think once that started happening to me, I think something kind of clicked in my mind, and I was like, actually, if I dedicate myself to this, and I know this is what I want, then I'll give myself a chance. The toughest journey was the rejection at such an early age, because you go through this high of, you get scouted, you're getting noticed, you think you're close, then you go on trial and then you get told you're not. So then you're like, okay, and then you get scouted again and you think, okay, this is the chance now, this is going to be the one. And then again you get told no, and then it happens again. So for me, that happened 5 times.
Oh, Jesus.
So dealing with that journey, or those setbacks was tough. And I think I had a tough upbringing and a tough childhood in my early years. So I think there's a part of me that was probably, my teenage years, I was quite an angry kid. And I think what was fortunate for me was I was able to put that emotion into my football. So that also drove me. So a lot of the stuff that I did, I was very much like, okay, well, I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm not going to have anyone doubt me. I'm going to prove you wrong. So that kept spurring me on and kept driving me on. Right. And then lo and behold, at 16, I got a scholarship at Brentford, and my kind of football journey started, really. So, yeah.
Good. So just want to go back into some point that you just mentioned about I get it. Full of testosterone. You're a budding teenager. Yeah, you got the attitude. We all had it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did that attitude, so obviously you fuel that attitude out onto the field, but did that attitude get fueled in a locker room? Did it get fueled to the coaches? Do you think that had a bit of an impact of why you were rejected a few times until you got to Brentford and signed your scholarship?
No, I don't think it did actually, because it was never a sense of like if I was a sponge. If coaches told me something, I would do it.
Right.
Like, so it never really come out in that way, but physically, on the pitch, like there was no fear. Like I'd run for a brick wall at a young age. Like there was no fear for me, and that's where I kind of channeled it. And I think ultimately the reason I didn't get those opportunities before was because at the time I probably wasn't ready, and there was elements of my game that I still needed to improve and needed to work on.
Yeah.
But those experiences that I did have beforehand, one gave me something to hold on to and drive with. I'd always been taught about, sort of from a young age though, whatever happens, no matter what setback you have, kind of brush yourself down and go again. Yeah. Like you have to keep moving forward. There's no option to stand still. You have to keep moving forward. So that was ingrained in me anyway. So I think when all those things came together with my focus of wanting to become a footballer, as well as proving people wrong, it just led me on the path of constantly pushing forward and allowed me to keep developing. And then when my last opportunity came, I took it.
Exactly. Did you find having that aggression is what made you play the position you're playing?
Yeah, probably elements of that, for sure. I think definitely, because I was someone who liked to battle and was strong and physical, and then developed my technical elements of the game later on as my career kept developing. But I would definitely say that had a part of it. But I think I read the game quite well. I was fortunate, again, I keep going back to the setbacks, right? But I was fortunate that in those moments I was able to get access to some really good level coaching. Right. So it allowed me to take the lessons from that and then put it into the next thing and put it back into my game. So that really helped me. But it's a crazy journey when I look back at kind of where I came from, because I'd gone from being rejected 5 times and then ended up on my 6th time getting a scholarship, which I was really late. I was just leaving school. It was just of my GCSE year, so year 11. And there was only 1 scholarship left. All the rest had been given out. And there was 3 people, myself included, going for that last scholarship. And the 2 people that were going for it had already been at Brentford I think they'd been there for like 3 or 4 years previously. So they already kind of had some credit in the bank in terms of being a player there. So I felt like I was up against it anyway. But as I said, that desire for me to achieve what I wanted to achieve kind of led me to keep believing and just push through those boundaries.
It sounds like you've adopted discipline at a really young age, because I'm hearing a discipline about getting knocked down, learning those lessons, using those lessons collectively to move yourself forward. At a very young age, that's hard.
Yeah, 100%.
That's hard with regards to, the social stuff that's going on around in your life anyway. Yeah. So clearly you were driven from a very young age. Yeah. That's what I'm sensing here.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's only now you get to look back and realise kind of like maybe what you was doing at that age. I didn't know I was doing it. I just wanted to play football. That was just my desire. Yeah. But I was extremely disciplined in that area anyway. I was extremely disciplined in wanting to achieve my goal, and naturally I'm quite driven, and I'm very much like that now, and probably more driven now because I'm more aware of the things I want to do and the impact I want to have on the world in a positive way. So I think I'm more driven now. I think the problem sometimes, and I think there's probably a lot of, especially like for me, I've always worked in a sort of sports industry and within football, that the dangers with being so driven is you're never satisfied. Yeah. So you're constantly looking to beat or do the next thing or move forward in another way. And sometimes you forget to take a breath and take a moment and understand how much you've achieved in the time that you've been going and what you've achieved.
Definitely know that feeling.
I think that's something that extremely driven people and high performers have, and I think that sometimes we'll get to it later, right? But when we talk about the transition of coming out of the game, trying to find that in a different world is tough.
No doubt. For sure. Let me dial back a little bit. Do you think you got all that discipline and desire from your upbringing, the way you were brought up?
Yeah, I think definitely. Like I think I definitely did. I think my mum obviously was extremely kind of impactful in how she brought me up. The honest truth is I didn't have a great relationship with my real dad. My first sort of early years of my childhood up to about 10 were difficult. That's just the harsh reality.
Yeah, for sure.
I grew up in a really tough kind of environment, unfortunately, for a kid. So those experiences definitely played out at different times in my life. When I was young, I was very kind of introvert and very quiet and kind of inside myself. And then I got to my teenage years and it flipped and I become like very angry. And explosive in moments, not really understanding my emotions or my feelings, and not knowing how to control them or deal with them. And lucky for me, I had something to channel it into, which is a positive for me. But I think the principles that my mum instilled in me, and talking with my grandma and then when my mum got my stepdad as well, I think that definitely helped. So I'm always thankful for those things. And it's strange, right? Because at this moment in time, I actually don't have a relationship with my mum or my dad anymore. But that's obviously, that's unfortunately life. It happens, right? But what I do know is they had an impact in a positive way, which leads me to be the man I am today. And you know, I'm sure you guys have experienced this as well, but you have difficult moments in life, and at the time it feels like the worst thing ever, but actually those moments are what give you the possibility of becoming great.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's understanding how you use those moments or how you use those scenarios that happen to propel yourself forward and not look at it in a way that will hold you back.
Your parents have done a good job, man.
Thank you.
Your parents have done a good job. They've instilled some great principles into you. Including your journey of football, etc. And collectively, you got a good set of tools, man. I can clearly hear that.
Yeah. And the fact that you understand it now, where at the time we all didn't. I mean, I was pretty much the same as you, but I'm going to ask you this question in a minute. I was angry just like yourself.
Yeah.
But then I chose a sport that I could still push that anger out.
Yeah.
You chose a sport where you have to control that anger.
Yeah.
Because you can't play recklessly playing soccer.
Yeah.
I could play recklessly American football.
Yeah, of course.
and tackle or hit someone as hard as I can.
It's part of the game.
Right. Where you chose a sport where you have now, I've got this aggression, but I can't play like that. I'll be destroying people.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see you took it into a sport and grew in that sport and learned how to channel it. Where other people sometimes they go into a more physical sport like boxing or whatever, just to keep on getting that aggression out. But you learn how to put it into, I would say, a technique sport, because soccer is all about technique. But you learn that to put it in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, and it was like it's funny, right? So it was something that served me really, really well early on and got me where I wanted to get to. And then again, my journey flipped really quickly. I went from not being kind of someone that clubs felt was ready, then getting my scholarship, and then within like 6 months I was training with the first team at 16. So it's like the jump was huge and the turnaround was massive. I had all that rejection and all of a sudden I was coming through, doing well, training with the first team, made my debut at 17, signed my pro and was on the bench and stuff like that. So the journey started going really well. Once my first year as a pro though, I was sent off 3 times because, as we were saying there, that's where I lacked control at that time.
Right.
So it nearly cost me because then I've gone from, it was the thing that kind of helped me and made me, but now I'm at a point now where actually I have to really control it and understand it because it will cost me. So I was sent off 3 times, and I remember my manager that season, he said to me, if you don't change the way that you play in terms of your aggression and not being reckless, you're not going to have a career. I won't play you and no one will play you because you can't be trusted. So that was like a real eye-opener because I then realised that actually, yes, it's a tool for me and it's good, but if I don't control it, it's going to cost me everything. So that was the moment where it flipped for me and I understood, right, I need to start building some kind of emotional control here. And again, I would have been 18 or whatever it would have been, and you're trying to figure that out. So it's been a long journey trying to work it out.
You know, the funniest thing, that would have worked with your John Terrys and what's the guy that used to play at Wimbledon? Vinny.
Oh, Vinny Jones.
Yeah, that would have worked in their era, playing that recklessly.
Yeah.
But the times you'd have been playing now, they wouldn't have done. But
exactly that.
So what does the day in the life of a professional football player look like?
So, for example, obviously, how when I was playing more, so it's changed a little bit now. But when I was playing, obviously, you'd have your game on a Saturday, so your week would be kind of in Monday. And it would be sort of your second day recovery. So if you've played at the weekend, you're kind of in little sort of easier days, some stretching, some gym work, might go out and do a little bit of ball work, but nothing too heavy. Tuesdays would then be Terror Tuesdays, as they was known, because it was the hardest day of the week. Mm-hmm. So you'd have your kind of running days in, real physical sessions, then your gym, and kind of pushing your limits and pushing your body on that day. And then Wednesday you'd usually be off. Thursday you'd be in again, tough session, but like sort of really sharp stuff. Good on the ball, match preparation, just started getting ready for the weekend again. And then Friday, short and sharp, in small-sided games, little passing stuff, some sort of competitive stuff, but just fun. Again, just going through kind of your set pieces and your match prep. Might do some analysis as well, just for the game. And then depending on if you're home or away, you'd either travel. Or again, you'd kind of just go home early, rest, relax, get ready for the next day to go and get the 3 points and fight for that. So most of the time, that's kind of how your week was. Football's like such a strange thing, right? Because when it's going well, it's the best sport ever. Like, it's the best ever. But when it's not, it can be a lonely place. It can be a tough place when you're injured, when you're not in the squad, and you're not in the team. Like, it's tough. So when I speak to people, obviously everyone has that perception that all footballers just earn loads of money and they have loads of free time and they can do whatever they want. And I'm like, that's not technically how it works. Yes, there is elements of free time. Yes, some footballers earn some good money, but not everyone is in that category, right? Yeah. But also, the things that you have to deal with is daily judgment. Constantly, you're constantly competing everything you do is a test. Everywhere you walk around the training ground, how you act, how you speak, how you present yourself, how you train, how you play, how you warm up, how you warm down, what you eat, like everything is watched, everything is monitored, everything is a test, because the manager needs to know whether they can trust you or not to get the job done on a Saturday. And that's what people don't understand. Like, that is heavy for sports people, because you're constantly striving. And as I said earlier, you're always trying to be better because you're aware that someone is going to try and take your place. Yeah. Someone might want you. So you have to always kind of be on edge, because the moment you let it slip, it will cost you.
So, okay. So starting 11, for example, you're part of starting 11, and obviously you've got more seasoned players that have been playing longer than you, etc. Did you ever find that they were given a bit more of a silver spoon than yourself? Or was it just a level playing field for everyone? Nah,
it's never a level playing field. Yeah. It's never a level playing field at all. When you're a young lad, you're earning your stripes, right? So I remember when I was still in the youth team and getting called up to the first team, you're going in and you're not sure how you're meant to be. If you go in and you try and like sort of prove too much or do too much, are they not going to respect it? And then that's not going to help you. If you go in and you kind of are tentative, they're not going to trust you. Wow. So it's like, and I was fortunate. I had some good pros who helped me. So I was quite fortunate in that sense. I remember my first day training with the first team. I was so nervous because also, you in your head you think this might be the only opportunity I get to show that actually I've got some value and maybe I could be a pro. Yeah. So I remember just feeling so nervous the day I got told I was training with the first team. And sometimes, and it was like, the crazy thing is, right, you wouldn't necessarily always know before training if you're going to train with the first team. Like, sometimes you'd be called over in the middle of the session. Okay. So you'd be doing your session with your youth team, and then all of a sudden you hear your name called, and it's like, I'm going to train with the first team, and then you're jogging across the pitch, and that jog from it's the longest jog ever. Because you're like, firstly, you're like, if I go in this session and I'm crap, they're going to be on me. Like, there's no hiding place. I don't know if the manager's pissed off already or whatever it might be. So you're like, I need to go in and make an impression. I can't be rubbish. I have to make sure I'm right, but also I can't injure no one in the first.
Yeah,
Like you're just like you're constantly sort of nervous. But luckily I had some good pros, and I remember I trained, and I was kind of like I was obviously trying, but I wasn't trying to do too much. And one of the pros grabbed me and said, "Listen, yeah, if you got to go and win the ball, go and win the ball. Don't play about. Like this is your opportunity. Don't worry about them. Don't worry about whatever they're gonna say to you. Make sure you do what you need to do because you might not get this opportunity again." So then I remember training, and then after, he said to me, "Well done. Just make sure when you get your opportunity next time, don't come here thinking about these lot. These lot have earned what they needed to do. It's your chance now. Don't worry about what they say because you're always a bit nervous. You don't ever want to upset pros or upset the manager, right? I think that helped me. And one of them in particular was Marcus Gale, who I'm still now really good friends with.
Yeah.
Like he's a mentor to me, and he's always kind of looked out and pushed me to try and better myself. And he's someone that's led the way and created space for me to kind of do what I'm doing now because of what he's been through before, right? So I'll always be appreciative of him for sure.
Okay.
Did you ever find, right, that when you went to the first team and practiced for the first team, etc., was there anyone on the team that tried to negatively manipulate you by sending you the wrong way because they saw you as a threat on the field?
Yeah, always. Always was because, and it wouldn't even necessarily be someone who was in your position. I actually never experienced it from someone who was actually in my position. I experienced it from players who necessarily weren't, it might be a forward. Because if I'm a young lad coming in, I'm dominating the forward. Like for them, that's a slight embarrassment, right?
Yeah.
So then they're feeling uncomfortable now. So they're like, "Well, you're a lung. You ain't gonna come and do that to me as a young lad." So that's where it becomes a bit of a challenge. Or you get the pros that would test you and really push your limits. So they might hit you in a tackle really hard and see if you get up and give you that. And at the time, like I used to think, like, oh, this guy's an idiot. But actually, again, it was a moment of learning. Because then it's like, that's what I'm going to experience when I'm playing. Like if I'm called upon, I've got jobs to do on the football pitch. I can't shrink. I've got to make sure that no matter how hard I'm here, I get up and I go again. Like, so those moments, although at the time when you're a young kid, you're just thinking, why is this guy being like this? Whether he's trying to do it in a positive way or not, he's helping you because he's setting you a challenge that you have to rise up to. And in those moments, it's up to you. You either rise up to it and go beyond it, or you let it beat you. But ultimately, I wouldn't have carved a career out if I did that.
Obviously, I played soccer back in the day, but I only played it at school.
Yeah.
At professional level, is there like, for your set plays, is there like a playbook? Is there like, is there a book that you have certain plays that in it that you practice like there is in our game?
Yeah, so it's more like you just have sort of your set piece routines, and you'd usually practice them on like a Friday or a Thursday and a Friday. You go through them, kind of what you want to do, how we're going to play it, and then again there would just be reminders kind of in game when you do it. So there is to a degree, and similar to kind of your sort of patterns of play you'd go through, like how we think we're going to open teams up or how we're going to kind of defend against teams depending on what the game is. So you do go through that stuff during the week. It's even more detailed now, because it's just so much more. So it's even more detailed now. But you do have those things. Yeah. Okay,
because I only played it at amateur level, so we just went out there and played. Just running around. You know what I mean? But it's good to see that, or for me to understand what the professional level is like when it comes to that, that sport. I guess there must be some kind of playbook in every little sport in one way, one shape or form.
So when you through the season, you're obviously playing different teams.
Yeah.
There's a game plan for who you're going to be playing.
Yeah.
Do you guys watch film? Do you watch film of opposition down to individual players?
Yeah.
Set pieces? Do you do all of that? Yeah.
Yeah. So again, it developed as my career went on, and analysis and stuff came more into it, and now it's like super detailed. You've got analysis for every part of the pitch.
It sounds like American football.
It is. It's extremely detailed.
Because there's so much. There's so much strategy. In American football.
Yeah.
It's a joke.
Yeah.
But what you're saying to me, it sounds like it's slowly bled in over the years in your career.
Yeah.
So that tells me back in the 90s and 80s and all that.
They were just playing.
Yeah. What was it like? It's kind of hard to imagine. not
Yeah,
having
it's
strategy
definitely
and game
different. I think
planning.
there always would have been strategies and game plans, and I think this is where it's had like a really positive impact on football, but it's also taken away some of the natural creativity,
Right.
Because
True, right, I
because
see
this
what you're
because when I look back at as a kid, right, and I think about players like Henry, Zidane, like Pirlo, Maldini, like people like that, there was a natural creativity that they
Right.
had, which I think they was allowed to express. Whereas things now are so tactical that you don't necessarily get to see as much of that in the game now.
Yeah.
So I think that's where analysis has obviously taken the game to another level, but also slightly sort of
Changed it.
Yeah, changed the game in that sense. So I don't think we see those free flowing, explosive moments as much as we used to when I was younger and when I watched the game. So I think that's where the game's changed slightly. But I definitely think sort of that analysis side of things, especially over the time of my career and then now where it's at, plays a huge part in what people do at clubs, and how clubs are set up, and having their own identity is kind of key. And it's something that we definitely had, but there was also a lot of focus on, right, what are we good at? Let's make sure that every team that plays against us knows exactly what we're good at, because we're going to take it to them all the time. So yeah, it's one of those where it's good for the game, really good for the game, but it also takes away that natural kind of spark a little bit sometimes as well.
Okay. I just want to switch lanes quickly. You know, I was watching your little YouTube little video there yesterday, and you're speaking about racism.
Yeah.
How was it in your sport? I mean, when we obviously when we played, there was racism, but it was kind of different.
Yeah.
It was, we had a red passport, they got a blue passport. It wasn't so much our colour. It was, well, these guys can't play. They're from a different country.
Yeah.
Obviously, in soccer, and it's still going on to this day. What was it like, you know, playing, especially like at Brentford?
Yeah.
As a young black guy.
Fortunately for me, Brentford was good. Like, Brentford was brilliant. I was always respected. I was always always kind of looked after and felt valued. Naturally, when you go to other clubs, like, you'll experience it. So I played at other clubs. I remember, and I won't mention the club in particular, but
Yeah, we know.
there was a club where I got someone. I think I got them sent off in a tackle. I think I got them sent off, and the game was playing. It was hostile anyway. But every time I got the ball, I could just hear a load of noise. And at first I just thought people were booing me. I must have been playing about 10-15 minutes. And then I remember getting the ball, and I remember just, like, you know when clarity just comes in a moment? And I could hear what it was, and it was just monkey noises. And I'd been playing with that for about 10-15 minutes, didn't even realise. And then I went and took a throw-in, and as I went to get the ball for the throw-in, someone racially abused me. And when I looked, it was a kid that could have been probably no more than 12 years old.
Wow.
And then you see kind of some of their maybe parents or peers, whoever it might be, whoever's looking after them behind, and they was sort of over the moon that they'd kind of done that. And that was
supporting the cause.
Yeah. And that was my first experience like proper experience of racist abuse towards me. I just remember I just picked the ball up, took my throw and carried on the game. I never even spoke about it. Like, it was just, okay, I just got to accept that and just keep playing.
But did that sort of thing impact your output on the field? Once you, because it sounds like you was clearly in the zone. 15 minutes later, you know, you tuned in and you thought, wait, you know, you heard it. Once you've tuned into it, unfortunately, does it have an impact?
It does, without a doubt, it has an impact. I think where I was at that point, it was kind of like I didn't really know what to do. I was still quite young, so I was just like, I just got to get on with the game anyway. Like, it is what it is. I just got to get on with the game. So I didn't even notify anyone. I didn't tell anyone. Like, no one knew that even happened. Like, people would have heard it, but no one spoke about it. No one said, "Oh, did you hear that, by the way?" Like, no one did that. And in that moment, again, like I said, I just picked the ball up, turned around and took the throw. So it was only like after that I realised kind of and understood what kind of happened. But for me, that at that point, I was like, well, this is probably just too late now. to do anything with it, because you just never really knew what to do at that time. There's so much more awareness now, which is what's needed and what's great.
Right.
Yeah.
But at that time, I didn't really know that. So I just kept playing. So it had an impact on me for sure. But I don't think I really kind of understood the impact it had on me. And then as my career went on and played for other clubs, I've experienced racial abuse many different times. But I think for me, I don't think I let it impact me in a way where it stopped me from doing what I wanted to do. I probably just used it as fuel, be like, all right, cool, say what you want, but I'm the one that's stepping over that white line, and I'm the one that's going to go and win a game of football.
Yeah.
And then you enjoy those moments even more when it goes well. But football's a strange world. You'll have someone abuse you, right, from the side of the pitch, and then you'll come out the front door and they'll be asking you for an autograph. like it's mad.
Yeah, it is
like
mad.
Genuinely crazy.
Or
it is. Like,
That's like night and day stuff.
it's crazy.
It's crazy.
It's really crazy. Like football's like that. And as I said, it's improved a lot. It's got so much better. But there's still elements of it. Like there's no hiding. There's not, right? And I think social media has allowed people to be able to kind of express some of those thoughts that we don't want in a game and we don't need in a game. But it gives people a place to hide behind, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So that's where it is some work that needs to be done. And I think people are working towards it, but it's difficult conversations for one. There's a level of accountability that needs to be taken as well. And then it's about action. I think listen, people will do different initiatives and stuff like that, but ultimately it comes down to action and how willing you are to take action, really. And I hope that we just keep getting better at the taking action part.
Well, it's good to hear that through your career and beyond your career that it's getting better, and they're putting the things in place to eradicate it. That's the good thing to hear. Not that it's still there and it's still a problem, etc.
Yeah, they're definitely trying.
It's good that they're trying to make the change.
Yeah, definitely. But it's a societal problem, isn't it? Like, I think it's easy to use football because of the sort of global reach football has and make it out as if it's a football problem, but it's not. It's a societal problem, which is then brought into football because people have a space to shout at people or say certain things, feeling like they can just get away with it because there's a level of freedom and they won't get found out. That's becoming a lot harder now because of sort of the police presence, the cameras inside the ground and things like that. So it's a lot harder now. But for me, it's how do we make society better so those things don't happen. And I think football has a part to play because it has a global reach, like I said. But also it's making sure we highlight that it's not a football problem or a sport problem, it's a societal problem, and that's what we need to fix it. But how do we use these influences to get us to that point in trying to fix it?
You know, I've seen examples of games, right? I've seen examples of games where you see that. You see the elements of racism, unfortunately, it's still there. Yeah. And you have players of colour, right, that are playing on that one team. Yeah. And they're targeting one or two players. But there might be like 6 or 7 players of colour on the field. Yeah. Have you been in a situation like that? Yeah. Right? And you know, let's just say your teammate, you know, of colour is getting that. I mean, that obviously has happened. How do you support that guy? And maybe in that scenario, vice versa.
So I've not had it happen when I was playing in terms of like my teammate was getting abused. I've had it where someone on the opposite team was abused by the team I was playing for. And then the response was, not you, you're one of us. We're talking about them. So it's like...
Makes no sense.
It's crazy, right? But even in my head, I was like... You know, I just like you're trying to figure it out. I was trying to work it out. I'm like, how does that make? But that like, some people just genuinely are just like, it's a way to attack someone, and I want to get under your skin, and I'm gonna like, that's what I'm gonna do. Yeah. And they don't understand the
crazy
kind of impact or consequences that has for the individual.
Yeah.
And how that devalues them in such a way that's extremely painful, right? They just don't understand it.
So this sounds like they're just using racism to derail a guy to get him out of his game. Not necessarily being malicious. yeah, just to derail them.
Yeah.
And they're just going to go, and use these words and these taunts just to get that person, not realising that there's probably 11 or 12 or 13, 14 players of colour that could probably, take that the wrong way.
100%.
But like you said, that's why the minute the game's over, they're at the front door trying to get autograph.
And it is. And listen, it's not to be tolerated. It needs to be removed from the game, regardless of whether you think it's something just to derail someone or whether you truly mean it. Like, whatever place you sit, it's not acceptable, and it shouldn't be in the game, and you shouldn't be doing it.
Sure.
And that's what I strongly believe. But I think it's the understanding around it. And again, like I said, you only know what you know, right? So if you don't realise the impact that has on someone when you racially abuse them, then unless there's a level of education that needs to be had, right, they're never going to change. But also it's the education for the person needs to be so impactful that it shakes them as well. They have to understand, because you can just go and get to tell someone to get educated, but it doesn't mean they've learned anything from it.
Yeah.
They'll go and sit a few hours of whatever it might be and then come out and still be the same, right? So it has to be something that's impactful, that forces change and gets people to understand why you shouldn't do those things and the impact it has and the pain that it causes, so that then actually they look at it and go, do you know what? I never want to be in that situation, or I never want to make someone feel like that again.
Is that why they're banning people?
Yeah, you're trying to take away stuff, but again, like banning is good, but like how, for me, I'm like, there has to be a serious level of consequence to it, because people have to really understand that actually this isn't acceptable and can't be tolerated. And I think that's the first bit, because then that stops people doing it. But how do we change people's mindset
To maintain it moving forward.
That's the difference, right? Because you can stop people doing it, but it doesn't change their mindset. So they might not do it at the stadium, but they might go and do it out on the street.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So how do you impact someone enough with the learning to know that actually when they're going to think twice about saying or reacting in that way, because it's costly. And that's the bit where I think is such a hard thing to figure out. And I would love to sit here and say I know the answers, but I definitely don't. But what I do think, the more conversations and the more awareness we have, then hopefully the better it will be in the future.
Yeah, that's absolutely crazy.
What's the best game? What's your best game that you've played in where you were just on fire? Nothing got past you. Your goalie was just giving you your flowers. He was well happy you being that centre back, stopping everything. You just annihilated forwards. What was that game? Or was there quite a few of them?
There's a few. I'm gonna go with a few. No, there's a few games that where I think about the result and the impact. And it definitely wasn't just a me thing. It was a team thing. Always will be. But I look at sort of Everton at home. When Brentford played Everton at home, that was a huge win. Some of the kind of players that played in that game was incredible. Like Mikel Arteta was one of them. Yeah. Come off the bench and was stroking the ball around the pitch like anything I hadn't seen before. And it was crazy. I played against like the Kubu, who was a physical battle that I've probably never faced before. But we come out 2-1 winners, right? But it was a team effort. Everybody had to put a shift in, and that was a great feeling. I think about seasons where I've got promotion with teams, and kind of some of the performances in those where you've gone to grounds and you come away with a result and you're like, this season's going to be special. You can feel it. So there's definitely a few. I think sort of it's strange. I remember, so we lost in the JPT final at Wembley against Carlisle, and I never forget my man scored. My man scored the winner, and that was extremely kind of painful because I'd actually had a really good game, and that one moment cost me. And it was frustrating because that was my first time at Wembley. We'd lost. It was my man that scored. His weekend was unbelievable. I think he scored the winner for his team. I think he had a baby that weekend as well, and then he played at Wembley. So his weekend and my weekend were like polar opposites. But again, there's always things that happen in your career, right? and there's moments of something great that happens, and you're like, that feeling I need to feel again. I want that again. And then there's moments that happen that are negative, and you're like, that feeling I never want to face again. So it switches you on, and that was one of them. I never wanted to experience that again because it feels like the weight of the world. Like you've let. For me, there was 30,000 Brentford fans there, or whatever it was, 25,000, and it's like my one moment of switching off has cost all those people that joy. But then you get on the other side, and for example, I was fortunate enough to get 3 promotions with teams that I was with, and you get those feelings, and then you kind of remember how important that is for people, and that's the part about sport, right?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
You get those moments of absolute elation that doesn't feel any better, and then you get those moments where it's like, oh, it's just someone, the floor needs to swallow me up right now. I need to find somewhere to disappear. But that's also why we love the game.
My last season. Oh, it had me so angry. Oh my God, Frankfurt just. Every time you used to brought it out, but it's like every time I think about it, they didn't want to see us again.
We were in a situation where we'd played all our games.
Yeah.
And there was another game that had been played in Germany.
Yeah.
And the decider of that game would have meant we would have gone to the final.
Okay.
Or we would not have gone to the final.
Yeah, yeah.
So the favourite in that team to win threw the game. Just so they wouldn't see us in the final.
Because we won back to back.
Yeah.
So we went on. We lost our first 4.
No, we lost our first 3.
Right, and then we went on a run.
Yeah.
Unbeaten.
So we were just killing, and they didn't want to see us.
That's crazy. You never think that would happen at that level as well, no?
Yeah.
It was so upsetting because we wanted them so bad.
And that was our last pro year.
Okay.
That was our last pro
year.
year.
Yeah. So what that meant to you personally as well was huge.
Frustrating.
Yeah.
So frustrating.
You scored any goals?
Yeah, I scored a few. Yeah.
How was the very first one? Okay, if you can remember.
Amazing. So my very first goal for Brentford, I think, was a week or a few days after my son was born. So I remember it like, and it's crazy. I always score goals after my kids were born. Like it's actually really mad. Like within a few days, like my kids would be born and I'll score a goal. Like a few days later, I don't know why that was. If I had more kids, I might have had more goals. But I've got 3 and that's enough.
Yeah, I hear you.
But yeah, so that was always strange.
That doesn't mean he scored only 3 goals.
No, I scored more than 3 goals in my career. Yeah, I definitely scored more than 3 goals. But it was always strange how that happened. But yeah, my very first goal, Shrewsbury away. I'd love to say it was a big towering header, but the action was right, but it came off my shoulder and went in. But a goal's a goal.
Goal's a goal, man. You take it anywhere you get.
Exactly.
Take
So that feeling was unreal. That feeling was unreal.
Oz, so what was that pivotal moment in your career where you said, "I'm done now. I'm done with professional soccer. You know, it's time for me to move on."
Mm-hmm.
When did you realise that moment?
So the moment it happened, I was at Aldershot and I'd had a really tough season. Just couldn't get myself fit, kept getting injured. I'd worked really hard in pre-season to be fit, then got injured during pre-season, just before the season started. Came back, started playing again. After a couple of games, got injured again. And I just couldn't get fit. But I'd gone in at Aldershot. I was captain. So there was sort of a high expectation on me to help the team get promoted. There were some good players there, some really good lads there. I don't think I would have been able to get through it without them, to be honest.
Yeah.
And the manager was fantastic as well. And it's a strange one, right? Because I think I knew my career was on the decline anyway, because it had reversed, right? I'd gone from playing in the Champ and stuff, and then sort of it's on its way back down, and now I'm in the National League.
Yeah.
So I knew my career was on decline. I also knew that my body was starting to really break down anyway. And I knew that was affecting me mentally, but all I know was football, and you're just trying to stay in the game as long as you can, because that's the way I earn my money. That's what I want to do. That's what I love. And I don't want the game I don't want it to stop, especially when you think, because all football is like, you know, your aim is to get to like 35 and beyond and play as long as you can, right? But I'm like 31 and I'm like, there's no way that I could be stopping. But my body just couldn't take it. And mentally it was destroying me, if I'm really honest. And you put your brave face on, but I remember you drive to training, and I think this is where it helped that I had some really good lads, right? So I'd be on my way to training, jump in the car school, and we'd have like a good laugh, we'd get in, we'd work hard and stuff, and then come home. But then when those moments when you're on your own, it sits in that maybe things are getting too much for me. football's becoming tougher. I'm not the player that I once was. And you feel like the game's slipping away. And then the manager called me in to his office, Gary Waddock, who I got a lot of time for, a lot of respect for. And he asked me how I was. And I was like, yeah, I'm okay. And he's like, no, how are you? And I'm like, I'm all right, I'm frustrated, obviously. And you're still trying to put that brave face on, right? And he's like, listen, you don't need to kind of hide here.
Put that mask on,
yeah,
take the mask
I know
off.
exactly that.
Yeah.
I know you're struggling. And I know this is tough for you. You might have to ask yourself the question on what the future looks like for you now.
Wow.
And it ultimately, I remember, like, a tough question. Like, it was the toughest question I'd ever had asked to me at that point, because that was the moment I had to genuinely think about, is it time for me to retire? Like, is my career finished? Or do I just keep going through this? I remember coming out, I remember getting in the car, and I was with a few of the lads, and I remember just broke down in tears.
Mm.
And as I said, I was extremely thankful to the players that I was with in that squad, and especially Jake Cole and Marvin McCoy and Matty, because they helped me in that moment, man. I just remember getting in the car and I just remember crying, just broke down. And they were supportive, man. They was understanding, tried to lighten the mood for me. Yeah, I have the utmost respect for them, because, as I said, there's a lot of times when you can feel quite lonely, but they kind of helped me through that moment. I went home, spoke to my wife, who again has been a rock through my whole career, been there through all of the ups and downs. And it's that moment of realization where it's like, I know what I need to do. Am I ready to do it? What does it look like on the other side? Because the honest answer is I hadn't prepared for that.
Yeah.
So it's like, what does that look like on the other side? And then who am I supposed to be if I'm not a footballer? Like, what's my identity now? Because my whole identity is tied to football. That's what I'm known as. That's who I am. And I think there's elements of ego within that, right? But I think,
of course,
I think all sports people or high achievers probably have an element of that, because that's the only way that you can survive in the industry. Yeah. So I think we all have an element of that. But yeah, I had a conversation with my wife. I went back kind of the day after and spoke to the manager and said, look, yeah, I think it's time that I go. And what I went to do was play part-time. So I was like, all right, you know what? I'll play part-time. So I train twice a week or whatever, play on a Saturday. And then I can start to sort of find my way in what I'm going to do. I'll go into coaching or I'll become an agent. Like, that's what I did in my sort of the start of it. I went and signed for a team, a non-league team. I played 2 games and said, nah, it's not for me. Like, I'm done. I am done. I didn't announce my retirement until about 5 or 6 months later. So I'd stopped playing. Yeah. But no one knew that I'd stopped playing. They just know that I'd left the club, but no one knew that I stopped playing, because I didn't want to admit that I was retiring. Yeah. And that battle took me months to get over.
Yeah. Did you, if you wasn't injured so much, where did you think you would fit? What age do you think you'd finish at?
I think if I didn't have such an injury hit career, then I think, and my body wasn't breaking down, I think I would have went on and played for longer for sure. And I think I maybe would have achieved more in my career. And I had a good career. I won, like I said, 3 promotions, cup finals, semi-finals, all of those types of things. So I had a really, really good career. And played only for my career over 350 games in total. So it's amazing, right? But yeah, I definitely feel like I could have achieved more had I not had some injuries at key moments and key.
But did you have a magic number? Did you have a number?
Nah, I always kind of was like 35. I'll get to and see how I'm feeling. Like, I think that's the standard, because also in football you get your PFA pension at 35. So that's always like a bit of a sort of marquee number. Yeah. And it's like, right, I'll get to 35 and I'll see if I'm still feeling good, then I'll keep going. If I'm not, then all right, cool, I can start to work, whatever it might be. So 35 was my number, and I played to 31. So I had a good career. Like, 16 years is a good career at a high level. So I'm extremely sort of fortunate of that. But yeah, it doesn't change anything, man. That moment of accepting your career is finished, you're no longer going to be a professional footballer, you're never going to experience the highs and the lows of the game. And as I said, you've got to now carve out a new identity, start all over again in a different world is tough, really tough. And when I speak to players that have done it, like trying to find their ways and navigating their way out of football is difficult for them because you just don't know where you sit in the world. You don't know where you sit in society. Football's a bubble. Like, you're in your own world. It's very different. And then you come out of it and all of a sudden...
there's no handbook for it, man.
There's no handbook, man. And I can only imagine that most people within sports go through this. That feeling, that loss. Because that's what it is. It's a loss. Like, since a kid, that's all I wanted to do. I then achieved it and then carved a career out, and then in one moment it's gone. Like, one conversation, I was now deciding whether I should keep playing or not.
Yeah, no, that's the truth.
And you don't necessarily see that you don't see that moment coming. You just keep trying to avoid that moment.
It sounds like I'll say in this, that you were fortunate that you had a community of people that supported you through that pivot.
Yeah.
Okay. It sounds like football players. It sounds like it was family. Yeah, pivotal and really important to have that. I'm glad to hear that you had that.
Yeah.
However, what did the team do to try and support you through that transition? Was there any programs available to support you as a player? Maybe it come from the league. Did they have something for players? Did the football clubs have something for players to help you get through that transition? Because we clearly get it with regards to living in a bubble, in your football bubble. Looking outside of that bubble can be terrifying.
Yeah, 100%.
Because you've been living, eating, smoking, football all your life. And then when you peer outside of that, it potentially can be really scary.
No, man,
right?
I'm not going out there.
Exactly. 100%.
Stay inside here, man. It's nice and comfortable.
It was extremely scary.
So just going back to my question, was there any support for you?
So there was support in the sense of individuals reached out and checked in on me. But it's just your career's done and football moves on.
Peace out.
That's it. And again, if I'm reaching out, so you got like the PFA union, you'll always be part of the PFA. So they've been good to me in terms of like now I'm getting on courses and stuff like that. So there's access to stuff, but there isn't like right, they're retired, right, let's get them around and look after them in this sense. There isn't that. There just isn't. And there's probably loads of reasons why there isn't that, but there isn't the support that's needed for players. You just retire and football moves on.
You know what it is?
It forgets you.
You're not making them any money, so... Because you're now at the end of your career.
Clubs have to move on. Like, they have to. That's just how it is.
The show's going to continue.
Keeps going.
It's got to keep going, right?
Yeah, football, as I said, like, and I've been fortunate because Brentford have been good to me. And obviously people within the industry have been good to me. But ultimately it's always come from me having to sort of put myself out there and then create a level of value, right? So that's always been part of it. But that transition of being a pro footballer or soccer player, still struggle with that word. Being a pro, being a pro.
That's the only thing that's uncomfortable.
Yeah, exactly.
Saying soccer, not football.
It's hard work.
I get it.
But that is, that's tough, man. That is really tough, and I imagine every single player goes through it. You don't necessarily know where your life is going to take you. You don't necessarily know what it's supposed to look like. And I think you then get people who kind of like leave football completely and they're like, right, that's my life I've lived, I've done, I'm shutting that down, I'm moving on to something else, I'm doing something different. And then you get people that try and hold on to it in whatever way they can. And if it doesn't hit the expectations that you want it to, that can be even more detrimental because you feel the rejection even more then.
Yeah. Because you now can't do it at all.
Yeah, 100%. And then there's like, okay, well, I was valued as a player, but I might not be valued as a coach or as a manager. And it changes, right? So I think it's difficult in that sense. I went from playing, I went into being an agent and doing that and then building my own football academy. So I knew that football was always going to be something I wanted to do. But it was figuring out what that looked like, which, to be honest, I think is probably a journey of life anyway. You're trying to figure out what life's going to look like, don't you? But and I'm still doing that now. But I'm grateful for the experiences I've had after being retired for 7 years, whatever it is now, 6.5, 7 years. So I'm grateful for that. And now I'm at a stage in life where I kind of know where it is I want to go and what I want to do and the impact that I want to have. And like I said, the transition over the last 7 years has been a really, really challenging one. But it's been a great one because now I'm in a position to go, right, this is who I am. Right. This is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to help people because that's what I love doing and have an impact.
Did you? So you say you now found your transition. Mm-hmm. Now you transition into coaching.
Yeah.
Why did you choose women over the youth?
So in regards to the coaching, firstly, my wife played football.
Okay.
So I had that experience of women's football quite early because my wife played football. And one of my good friends was coaching a women's team, and then he asked me to come in and coach and help. So I'd had that experience while I was still playing.
Right.
And then I was doing my B license. I knew the owners at the time of the women's team because at the time Brentford just shared the name. Wasn't under the club technically. So I knew the owners of them, and I wanted to kind of come in and coach, and I wanted to help. And I always felt like they was slightly undervalued. So not by the club, but just undervalued in general. So I wanted to come in, coach, learn, help it improve, get it better. It gave me space to learn and sort of understand how the game is. So that's why I ended up going into the women's game. And it's been probably one of the best learnings for me, without a doubt, because as a man, I've had to grow in so many different ways.
Right.
Emotionally, it's made me understand emotional communication and being sort of understanding of, one, how to control my own emotions, two, how to manage other people's emotions. Because there's always this thing, right, and I've spoken about this before, but there's always this thing where women's football must be more emotional than men's football, and that's not true. It's not more emotional, it's just men and women display their emotions differently.
Yeah.
And that's the difference.
Yeah.
So ultimately, when I was at football, if someone got emotional, they got angry, which meant we was either going to clash and argue or maybe come to blows, but you know what it is.
Yeah.
Whereas it came out very differently with the women that I worked with. Some would get upset, some wouldn't. Some would kind of hold it close to them and go within themselves. Some would come out and kind of speak their truth. So you had to kind of always navigate that differently. And that's why I'm super thankful for the players that I've worked with, because they've had a real impact on kind of how I have managed to navigate my own way through sort of retirement and coming out of football and going into coaching, and the lessons I've learned now that I'm able to go and implement in my life outside of that as well. So I'll always give a huge thanks to the women's game and to Brentford in particular for giving me that opportunity to do that. I think that's important, and the game's going from strength to strength.
I just want to go back to your career and the path that you took, and the lessons that you learned. Yeah, if I had the opportunity to say, Oz, let's go, man. I would like you to publicly speak to an audience of big Championship and Premiership League academy players. What would be the top 3 things that you would advise them, off your own pathway?
First thing, number one thing is you have to have an unbreakable self-belief, because your whole journey is going to be someone somewhere is going to be doubting you, saying you ain't ready, saying you're not good enough. So you have to have an unbreakable self-belief that you're truly singular focused and know that you're good enough to go and achieve it. The second part to that is you have to put the work in to do it, though. It's not just about thinking you're good enough. You have to go and prove to yourself every day that you are, because of the work that you put in order to make sure you're in that position to believe yourself in that way. I say that's number one. Number 2 is don't be afraid to stand out. Don't be afraid to be different from everyone else. Your job isn't to be the same as everyone else. Your job is to be different, because you have to be noticed.
Right.
So if you want to get noticed, standing in the crowd ain't going to help you.
For sure.
Yeah. bowing down to peer pressure isn't going to help you. When you're resting up and someone's saying, "Oh, just come and do this," but you know you need to rest, cool, no problems. When you need to be out doing extras, doing more than everybody else, make sure you're out doing more than everybody else. Like when people are going out and you need to rest up and stay in because you know you got a game or whatever, then do that, because it's those small details or small things that you think don't really have an impact that will have an impact over time. And I would say everything is watched and everything is seen. And in every moment that you're in and around the training ground, at games, operating outside your representation of yourself, and the club are always watching that. And coaches and managers are always watching that. So be aware, because it may take one moment to change their mind in a negative or positive way. And you want to make sure that, one, you don't miss that opportunity for you when it's positive, but two, you don't create the negative side of it to flip it to a negative one. So that's probably number 2. And then I think number 3 is allow yourself the space and the freedom to learn, get better, and ultimately win in the way that you see best for you. You have to. Like, I think about so many different instances in my career, and if I didn't give myself the space to be vulnerable enough to be able to take on what someone says to me, whether it's negative or positive, use it to help me move forward, and then I would have blocked so many blessings for myself and things that happen, because I would have been too busy worrying about how I feel rather than what is this teaching me. So that's the other part of it, I would say. It's not about shutting your emotions off, which is something that I was taught from a young age. About you close your emotions, shut your emotions. It's not about that.
Don't show them.
It's not about that. It's about understanding what those emotions are and how you can use them to propel you forward. Emotions are just information to let you know that something needs to change, or you need to do more of something, or you need to do less of something, or this doesn't feel right, so let's pivot. That's what it is. It's feedback. And that's exactly the same with failure. Failure is just feedback in order to tell you that you need to do something different.
Exactly.
So that you can make it better. It's not final. And I think that's where people sometimes get lost. They feel like failure is final. So they do one of two things. The moment they hit failure, they give up, or they don't even bother attempting because they're too worried about failing. And again, if you want to, if you want to block the greatness that you can create, then those are the things that you'll do. You'll either let failure control you, and you'll shut your own blessings down, or you'll find a way to get past it, move past it, learn from it, and implement it to move forward.
Like you said earlier, just get up, dust yourself off.
Dust yourself, go again. No one. The great thing about sort of, and I'm related to soccer and football, but it's life really. No one really knows what it's meant to look like. Like what is the best life meant to look like? If we asked 100 people, there'd be 100 different opinions. So all you need to do is focus on designing what your life is meant to look like and live for yourself. I spent so many years living for everybody else, and I'm like, no, I gotta live for me, man. And I'm in that living for me phase. That's where I'm at now. Man. I'm in that living for me phase, because we do that. And I think, again, when I go back to the sport that we do, and I'm sure you guys would have felt this, because of the elation we can bring for people in one moment, and the negativity and disappointment we can bring in one moment for people, we spend a lot of time trying to serve others. And I think sometimes we forget to serve ourselves first, so that we can actually deliver what we need to deliver in the best possible way.
That's some great advice.
I think that's probably my greatest learning from playing the game. For sure.
No, definitely could make me think about that. Is the amount of times that you do things for others, and you can't make no one happy, or you can't move yourself forward unless you take care of you first. And then once you've done that, you could then
100%
move forward.
100%. You got to fill your own cup first.
Yeah.
But I didn't. I'll be honest. Like, it's only now I understand what that looks like. Like, I didn't understand it at the time. Like, if I made a mistake, I wasn't thinking about myself in that. My first thing is, I've let my teammates down. I've let my manager down. I've let the fans down. That's what my first thought was. It wasn't about what I didn't do or what I should have done. It was about what I now cause for everybody else. And that's where it can be heavy sometimes because people are also confirming that with their opinions. Oh, you've done this, you're not good enough. Like, you're getting that.
Yeah.
Having to stay stoic in the moment and believe in yourself is an extremely tough thing to do. And you guys would have experienced it the same, no doubt.
Oh, for sure.
Definitely can relate. Definitely can relate. You know, it's you're eloquently putting it across really well. So you pivoted. You know, you're now then the head coach of the women's team for Brentford. You know, you've got your academy as well in the background. Someone that knows you, looking at you, doing that today, what do you think they would be saying about Oz?
I mean, the first thing I'd hope they'd be saying if they're looking out is he's still someone that is trying to lead the way and inspire, because that's what I want to do. I want to inspire people to want to do more or be the best version of themselves they can be. And I'm fortunate enough that football can be a tool that I can do that through. And now I'm sort of pivoting and doing the mindset and performance coach now, because I love the mind and the strength of it and understanding it so that you can kind of create the world that you want. And I'd like to think that my story gives other people belief that they can go and achieve something that they want from their life. And that's why I'm kind of passionate about giving back now, because the experience of football that I've had and now what I've done after football as well has given me tools to pass on knowledge to the next generation. And as I mentioned, Marcus Gale earlier, he was someone that done that because of the career he had. When I first met him as a 16-year-old boy, he was coming towards the end of his career. He gave me lessons and learnings that allowed me to kind of move forward, build my career, and now take that into life after football as well. So I want to do the same. I think it's only right that I repay that same thing back to the world. So for me, my biggest goal is leaving a legacy. And it's not about leaving a legacy so that people sing my name. That's not about it at all. It's about leaving a legacy so that I know that I've had the greatest impact I could have on the next generation. I've got 3 kids. I want them to live in a world that's a positive place. But I also want them to go and achieve great things and understand that anything is possible, no matter how big or how small it is. And I say it to my kids all the time. You will define who you are. You will decide what you want to be. The only thing I ever ask of you is that you do it at your utmost best and you give it everything that you have. Now, if you want to go and so I got a son and I'm like, if you want to be a professional footballer, great. You have to give it everything. And my daughters, they're dancers. If you want to go and be dancers one day and professional dancers, that's fine. Give it everything you've got. At the same time, if you wanted to be a binman, no problems. But you need to be the best binman there is.
Sure.
Like, simple as that.
Yeah,
I don't care
sure.
what it is you want to do. I just want you to be the
100%,
very best you can be. And that's what I'm passionate about, because I believe if you're constantly striving to be the best you can be, and it has its pros and cons, like I mentioned earlier, then you'll have a positive impact in some way. And you'll impact the world and make it a greater place. And I think that's why we're on this earth anyway.
So it sounds like to me that even though you're focusing on filling your own cup, what that actually looks like is supporting others to do the same.
100%. 100%. And it is. And I just know and I'm aware that I have to fill my cup first in order to be able to do that. Yeah. Because otherwise, if I don't, then what I'm doing is I'm just operating from a very low level and I'm not actually giving people the best opportunity I can. So I have to be able to do that. And it's important now that I take that on board and really try and implement that into my own life so that I can, come from a place of helping more people and helping others. Yeah.
I want to throw this accolade out there, man. I only knew this like 48 hours ago, man. Yeah. I mean, the football blacklist.
Yes.
You're actually on the football blacklist of the UK. You know, celebrating black excellence in football in the UK. Excuse me, for the work that you have done. Yeah. Just tell us a little bit about the work that you've done. I know you was inducted in 2020, is that right?
2020 I was inducted, which came as a bit of a surprise, really.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Congratulations.
I never expected it, so it was really strange.
Sorry for cutting you, because you got some big name players on this
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
You got,
but
like,
that's what I
Raheem
mean.
Sterling.
It's crazy.
You got like Lauren James, going back to Rio Ferdinand times. Paul Ince.
Yeah.
It's something to shout about, man.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And I'm extremely thankful for that, right? That someone recognised me, because I didn't know. Like, I only found out on Sky Sports, or someone had messaged me randomly, so I didn't even know that I'd won it.
They didn't even.
No, I had no
reach out
idea
to
that.
you?
I didn't know.
It was 2020, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it was COVID times
COVID
as well.
times. Yeah.
So I didn't even know, and I'm assuming they maybe operate like that anyway. So it's like a surprise when the person gets it. But I had no idea. So I was like, who actually voted me to get this? Like, what I was like, is this a family member or something? This is but it was. I didn't know who it was, and then someone randomly messaged me and said congratulations, and I was like, oh, thanks. And I was like, oh, I just wanted you to know it was me that voted. And I was like, wow, this person I had never had like a direct interaction with. I'd never met. They'd just seen the work that I've been doing and put me forward. And I was one of the people that got it. So it was incredible. Like, it was a really amazing feeling. Yeah. And then recently, also, I was the Premier League icon for No Room for Racism that Brentford voted me for as well, which was an amazing feeling for the impact I've had in the community. So those things are I'm extremely grateful for. And I've like I said, I've won promotions and won trophies and things like that, but those two things for me are up there with them, because again, it shows that I'm having a positive impact on my community.
Exactly. And those accolades that you've got is a testament to your pathway in football.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm extremely proud of them.
Good.
Yes. So how to say it earlier?
Yeah, we've got to go there.
Yeah, we have to go there. We have to go there quickly. That's cool. You go ask me the question.
Right. So you got this specimen, right?
Yeah.
Where do you play him on the field on defense?
Ooh, on D.
On defense, man. Where do you play him on defense?
Outside linebacker.
Outside linebacker.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or a strong safety.
That's where I was going with.
Let me find out.
That's what
these positions. Am I gonna get hit hard a lot? Because
No. You laid the wood.
I'm depending on how he read the game or how fast he is.
Yeah.
That's what I'm determining. Or in today's game, he might be a rush in.
Ooh, I think we're a bit slightly undersized for that. He's going to be like 6'4", 6'3", 250. In a way, I would say, so the positions that we're talking about are on defense, right?
Okay, yeah.
And you're saying a linebacker. I'm saying he's
speed.
Strong safety. Strong safety is a guy who kind of like has free reign on the defense. He generally... I'm going to start getting too technical now.
All right, put it this way. So you have the D-line.
Yeah.
There's a head hunter on the D-line.
Yeah.
You have linebackers, the middle linebackers, the shot caller.
Yeah.
Cornerbacks and safeties.
Yeah.
The strong safeties in charge of the secondary. Okay. So you have linemen, linebackers, secondary.
Yeah.
I would say the strong safety is in charge of the
corners.
The corners and the free safety. And the linebackers, the middle linebacker, he's in charge of the three of them.
Yeah.
So the strong safety is like the dad.
He sounds important.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
He directs the play. He directs the secondary. Pull them into check when they're out. You know what I mean? Or you need to be here. I want you to back me up here. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But when it comes to I would say he's more of a run stopper than he is dropping into coverage where he could break up passes.
Okay.
So we're talking like if Hutch has come around the corner.
Yeah.
That's me and you.
Okay.
You come and knock heads with me.
Yeah, okay.
Usually because,
I don't know if I want that. Sure.
Usually because the front seven, they usually get locked up with the offensive line and they're grappling.
Yeah, they're grappling. That makes sense.
I play something called running back, so I usually got the ball and I'd be running.
Yeah.
And you as a strong safety, you would generally...
You're probably going to be the first one to meet him.
Yeah,
so I'm cleaning up almost the ones that break through.
Kind of like,
Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Usually on offense, so you have the defensive team that does that tackles and the offensive team that attacks.
Yeah.
When the offensive scheme, usually we leave the free safety.
Oh, okay.
because that's the guy that I got to miss.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Sort of thing.
Yeah.
So just looking at your stature,
Yeah.
to me, he would roll up. We've got some helmet on him, shoulder pads. You know what I mean? He would be a strong safety.
Yeah, you got to bring the wood. You got to bring the wood with him. Listen, he was bigger than me, and I would come downhill on him.
Listen, this guy.
I just come downhill all the time.
This guy played. He played at like what 180, 185.
Yeah. 195 was like when I got older.
But he played like he was 220.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
Okay.
He
I played like I was built like you, bro.
He was a defensive player. I was an offensive player.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's switch. So on offense now.
Me?
I see this guy as a wide receiver straight.
I saw
put this guy
6'2".
out there. 6'2".
Yeah, for sure.
Out there.
I look at his hands, bro. He got some long, big ass hands too, so definitely wide out.
There you go. That's it. So you worked out. So wide receiver, we put you out as a wide receiver.
Yeah. I'd have to make sure I'm nimble with the footwork because I don't want to get caught with some of them heavy tackles.
So the problem is though, man, you go running out there, right, and you got to keep your head on the swivel because that strong safety and free safety will come light.
Yeah.
But it's changed now where they can't lay you out like they used to. Okay. Like if you was running and you was like this, and you then did this,
because I've seen
you'd have been
how some of them people got up. Crazy.
Yeah, but you can't hit someone like that no more. If you do, you got to tackle them. You can't come head to head. You now need to tackle them in their body.
Okay.
Where
there's a lot of safety restrictions in the game now purely because of the injuries and there's been some cases of brain damage, etc. Not just in American football, in high contact sports, maybe rugby,
even in soccer,
in soccer.
Sure.
We always mention this sometimes. Actually,
they're talking about them heavy level balls.
Heavy level balls back in the 60s when it hit them. When them things are wet, boy. Joke.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely, man. Definitely.
But Oz, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Passing through, chopping it up on the sofas.
Appreciate
Thanks for giving us that other angle of,
especially a different sport for sure.
Of another sport of the day in the life and the pathway of a professional soccer player.
Yeah.
Much appreciated. Thank you.